Up, up. Mga chief assistance needed dito. Involved dito sa hash factory. Yung dating nasunog na malaki dito sa Marang Road. Sa hash factory ang involved.
Ay, talaga, isa pa
Fire-breathing dragon burns down temple in the mountains of Japan.
游客街坑你去了，我操！我操！我操！我操！我操！把兵马俑，兵马俑，我操！
你看，哎呀！他走了。
Ilog-ilog ba? Isang araw pang ulan yan, te. Wala pa nga. Mga ilang oras lang. Yun naman yung gagi talagang Montero.
家再见我，别进郁闷。
China's property bubble has just claimed its biggest victim. Evergrande, once the pride of China's real estate boom, has been officially delisted from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The company that once promised millions of homes and glittering new cities is now buried under more than $300 billion in debt. At its peak, it was worth $50 billion and symbolized China's rapid rise. Today, its value has collapsed to less than a mid-sized firm. For ordinary families, this means unfinished apartments, frozen savings, and shattered dreams. For investors and creditors, it means billions lost. And for Beijing, it means the collapse of what was once a pillar of its economic growth. But this isn't just about one company disappearing from the markets. Evergrande's fall marks the beginning of something bigger, a deep structural crisis that is reshaping China's economy and shaking global confidence. Evergrande did not start as a failure. For years, it was celebrated as a symbol of China's urban miracle. Founded in the 1990s by Hui Ka-yan, it grew into the country's largest developer, building entire cities of high-rise apartments, shopping malls, and stadiums. At its peak, Evergrande was valued at more than $50 billion. Its shares once traded above 30 Hong Kong dollars, making it a favorite among investors at home and abroad. For a moment, it seemed unstoppable. The company thrived on China's booming demand for property. Millions of families saw real estate as the safest way to build wealth, and Evergrande positioned itself at the heart of that dream. It sold apartments long before they were finished, using advance payments to fund even more projects. Banks, trust firms, and foreign bondholders poured in cash. By promising high returns, the company kept the cycle spinning, growing faster than the competition. Hui Ka-yan became one of the richest men in China, hailed as the face of the country's economic rise. Evergrande expanded beyond housing into football clubs, bottled water, electric cars, even a tourism empire with theme parks. The message was clear. This was more than a developer. It was a national champion, backed by the momentum of China's growth. But behind the glamour was a dangerous truth. The empire was built almost entirely on debt. By 2020, the company's borrowing spree reached levels that alarmed regulators. The model of selling promises to fund expansion could only last as long as confidence remained. Once trust began to weaken, the whole structure stood on shaky ground. That tension between dazzling growth and hidden risk set the stage for what would come next: the unraveling of China's most iconic real estate giant. The turning point came in 2020, when Beijing introduced the 3 red lines policy to curb reckless borrowing. For developers like Evergrande, whose empire depended on constant new loans, it was the beginning of the end. Suddenly, the cash pipeline dried up. Without fresh credit, Evergrande could no longer juggle its massive obligations. By 2021, the company's debt had swelled past $300 billion. Interest payments were missed, projects stalled, and investors grew nervous. That year, Evergrande officially defaulted on its bonds, shocking global markets. Families who had already paid for apartments gathered outside local government offices, demanding answers. For many, life savings were locked in.
What is happening to the Chinese economy right now? Once seen as a nation of skyrocketing economic growth, China now is seeing decline. This Monday, the World Bank cut China's forecast growth from 4.8 to 4.4% for 2024. And this is not just China, but all of East Asia and also the whole world really, especially after we pick up from the pandemic. But focusing back to China, it seems like the most concerning area of decline is within customs and imports, which have plummeted by 12.4% compared to last year. Exports have also contracted by 14.5%, exceeding the expected 12.5% decline. And this raises lots of questions as to consumer behaviour and consumer habits for the rest of this year and next year. And yeah, it seems like consumers in China are also feeling the effects of this, with record high youth unemployment and an overall deterioration in purchasing of luxury items. According to a Jing Daily article, it seems that luxury stores are starting to create artificial queues to encourage people to visit and purchase, as people now have less money to spend on such luxury items. And an even worse affected area, of course, is the housing market, as we can see around the world. And this is for both buyers and sellers, as no one is willing to buy properties currently valued at listing prices. The managing director of the China Market Research Group pointed out that both small business owners and consumers are hesitant to spend or invest, a sentiment exacerbated by the government's modest stimulus efforts. So when looking back into the field of luxury consumption, what exactly can luxury brands do right now to reach their consumers, especially Chinese Gen Z, who were forecast to be the world's highest spending consumers? Being seen as expensive or having a high price or being luxury alone is not sufficient, as people tighten their purse strings for now.
Okay, so in another video I did mention that China's economy was in trouble. Yes, they are, but I feel like it's going to get worse, and I'll tell you why. So China is currently experiencing a housing market problem, similar to what the United States experienced back in 2008, 2010, but not quite to that level. And all the economic experts will say that that's what it is. It's a housing market problem, or that it's stagnant consumer spending. But there's a bigger problem looming on the horizon. It is estimated that within the next 50 years or so, that China's population, or rather close to 50% of their population, will be much, much older, as in percentage of their population that will be over the age of 60. That means China's population is getting older, and that means less of a workforce. A declining workforce in China is going to have major economic repercussions for that country, and it will have a trickle-down effect to the rest of the world's economy. Because as you know, China's economy is dependent on other countries, and other countries' economies are based largely on China. So although they may be experiencing economic problems right now, I think they've got bigger problems yet to come.
China's economy is tanking, but is it Trump's tariffs or something deeper? Let's break it down. First, Trump's tariffs. Since he took office in 2025, he slapped huge taxes on Chinese goods, like 10 to 25% on steel and electric cars. And China is going to be meeting U.S. Treasury Scott Bessent in Switzerland to fight back, stating that it is unfair and that these tariffs are making Chinese products pricier for the world. So yeah, it seems like they're hurting big time. But wait, China's got bigger problems at home. Overproduction is flooding their markets with too many goods, driving prices down to almost zero inflation. That does sound good, but it's not. It is killing their businesses. Plus, their property market is crashing. Think empty skyscrapers and broke companies. And here's the kicker. Chinese people aren't even spending a dime. After years of harsh COVID lockdowns, their consumer confidence is completely gone. They're all scared, so they're pretty much saving and not buying, which is a deflationary trap when prices keep dropping and the economy stalls. So yes, Trump's tariffs are in fact a punch, but China's own mess from within is the real knockout. So what do you think? Can they bounce back?
2025 might just be the year we experience the worst heat wave in history. The temperatures are nearly unimaginable. In Spain, it soared to 46 degrees Celsius, Portugal nearly hit 47 degrees Celsius, and France saw highs of 41 degrees Celsius. The heat has been so intense that nuclear power plants are shutting down, highways are melting, and even the Eiffel Tower is bending from the heat. Several cities in China are also experiencing extreme temperatures, with weather forecast even showing 54 degrees Celsius. It even caused the weather forecast software to crash, and it just goes to show how unbearable these temperatures have become. This year's extreme heat is driven by the subtropical high-pressure system, which has completely taken over the climate, causing a heat dome effect, trapping cooler air beneath and allowing surface heat to build up, leading to a sharp temperature rise. You might be wondering, what does the heat have to do with the economy? Well, in 2019, the US saw a huge spike in air conditioning demand due to the heat, causing a massive strain on electricity demand. In Texas, this led to a grid collapse and widespread power outages, costing billions in damages. Businesses were shut down, the supply chain was disrupted, and many small companies went under. This year's heat wave is more complicated than ever, and the global economy is facing multiple challenges. The surge in electricity demand has collided with energy shortages, with places like the Panama Canal and the Rhine River facing droughts, causing a shortage of coal and natural gas needed for power generation. As a result, energy prices are soaring. Shipping costs in Asia and on the US East Coast have also skyrocketed, and natural gas prices in Europe have increased by 11%. This heat wave is like an invisible hand squeezing the lifeblood out of key industries like food, energy, and shipping, and in the coming months, these industries will face unprecedented impacts. A rise in prices across the board seems almost certain, putting significant pressure on living costs and business production. So how do we protect ourselves from the effects of such extreme heat? In addition to the economic challenges, our health is also under immense strain. Fortunately, traditional Chinese medicine has long provided wisdom for dealing with the heat. Summer is when yang energy is at its peak, and excessive heat can easily lead to heat stroke and dehydration. When dealing with extreme heat, balancing the internal organs is crucial, especially the spleen and stomach. Summer can deplete the yang energy in these organs, so maintaining a balanced diet can help keep the body in harmony. Eating cooling foods like mung beans, cucumbers, and bitter melon can help cool the body and clear internal heat. Mental health is also key. The heat can make us irritable, but staying calm and balanced can improve our immunity. Additionally, moderate exercise is important. Try walking in the early morning or evening to stay active, but avoid intense exercise under the blazing sun. What measures have you taken to deal with the heat? Let me know in the comments. If you're also interested in learning how to use traditional Chinese health practices to improve your well-being, I'll be sharing more tips on leading a healthier lifestyle soon. On this journey to better health, you might even find new opportunities for your business. DM me. The future of health trends is quietly changing, and together, we can explore how to use this trend to stay ahead in the industry.
People who weigh less than 50 kilograms could be blown away by winds in northern China this weekend. That's what some state media outlets are warning. Workers have been told to hurry home, classes have been suspended, and outdoor events have been cancelled. Winds reaching 150 kilometers per hour are expected to sweep Beijing and other parts of Hebei region from Friday to Sunday, as a cold vortex moves southeast from Mongolia. And for the first time in a decade, Beijing has issued an orange alert for gales, the second highest in a 4-tier weather warning system. Beijing has also issued an alert for forest fires and banned people from starting fires outdoors. The winds are expected to start weakening from Sunday night.
So I think the embezzlement issue is more of an issue. Chinese Buddhism, people are fairly flexible about these things. Like, if they have a mistress on the side, there's a bit of understanding like there is in some churches. But stealing money from the temple and stealing money from projects, I think that's going to see him disappear from the scene.
Yeah, so he heads a 1,500-year-old establishment, the Shaolin Temple. But why is he known as CEO Monk?
Look, that's very much his own persona. So he's about 60 years old. He's been around for a long time. And he kind of came to prominence in the Jiang Zemin era, which was a bit Wild West. And there's this movie called Big Shot's Funeral, starring Donald Sutherland from about 2001, where literally everyone is on the make. And he claims to be the first monk in China to get an MBA. And it's his whole persona, like, I'm an entrepreneur, I make things happen. And he really has made things happen. There's more than 40 Shaolin enterprises overseas. He's huge throughout China, and, he's the face of it.
And is that why, there's this whole idea of Shaolin Buddhism, monkhood, and martial arts has been thrust into the international arena?
Look, I think that's probably got a bit more to do with, Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Bruce Lee and people like that. But, he definitely has made the Shaolin Temple brand a big part of China's soft power push. And we all focus on the infrastructure and this and that, but culture has been a huge part of that, and all of these developments are always wrapped up as cultural projects, including one in Australia, just south of Nowra, which is worth $370 million.
That's a huge amount. But can you tell us, Graham, why has he also been seen as such a controversial figure, before these accusations came to light?
Yeah, so they're very similar to accusations that came out in 2015. And back then it was this insider with the same surname as him who was posting these things on social media in China, the embezzlement, the multiple mistresses, illegitimate children. So this guy posted a birth certificate online claiming this was his illegitimate child. And it was big. It was investigated for about 2 years, and then the provincial authorities said, look, nothing to see here. Question mark, did he get to the provincial authorities? Because these are the same allegations and they seem to be true.
Yeah, because he did hold a fairly senior post in government, isn't it? In the NPC, he was a deputy in the National People's Congress. So the question is, how closely was he tied to the Chinese government?
Yeah, I mean, was always my question. We had a podcast about this that came out a week ago, and my question was, look, how has he kept this position? And it's about loyalty. He's been very loyal to the regime. He's survived Jiang Zemin, the Hu Jintao era, and now almost the Xi Jinping era, and he essentially delivers what the government wants. He sells China's brand very, very well. But unfortunately, these allegations, I think, probably got a little bit too widespread, and Xi Jinping, the morality thing is very serious. He's himself quite interested in Buddhism. So I think anything that tarnishes, that smacks of corruption, they have to crack down on. And corruption plus Buddhism, Xi Jinping takes that quite seriously.
Yes, and I'm wondering whether that direction came right from the top, given the sort of anti-corruption purge that Xi Jinping is on, and also given I saw reports as well that he wants to sort of target any sort of ostentatious behaviors from members of the CCP, particularly targeting luxury meals at luxury restaurants.
Yeah, and I mean, Xi Jinping has this very interesting attitude towards Buddhism. He made this speech at UNESCO more than 10 years ago now, where he really talked up Buddhism. And he's meant to be atheist, but the way he was talking it up, you'd think he's a believer. His wife is said to be a believer. His mother was given a Tibetan Buddhist burial. So the family is associated with it. And even his father was involved in trying to bring Tibetan Buddhism back into China. So it's a family affair with Buddhism.
Yes, as far as Xi Yongxin is concerned, given the high rates of conviction in China's court system, things are not looking very good for him, are they?
Look, it's a conviction rate well above 99%. You don't get charged until all the ducks are lined up. And I fear in the case of the CEO Monk, they're not going to want for material to bring on trial. The question will be, I mean, he has met everyone from the Queen to Nelson Mandela. He's going to be linked to some pretty senior people, so it's not quite the Epstein files, but certainly there will be a few people erasing photographs of themselves with the CEO Monk, I'd say.
Okay, we'll see what happens with these Xi Yongxin files. But lastly, Graham, how sacred is the Shaolin Buddhist establishment considered in China? And do you think this scandal has done anything to shake its foundations?
Look, I mean, I think that's partly why we're seeing this, is they don't want to damage this brand because it's so useful to the party internationally. The party works with Shaolin enterprises abroad in a way that makes it look cool. Chinese embassies don't look cool, but if you do aid work through a Shaolin institution, it's somehow much more acceptable. So they don't want to damage this very useful soft power tool.
Okay, Dr. Graham Smith, it's always cool to have you on our show.
China wanted to control population growth and stop poverty, so it told people that every couple can only have one baby. Now that was started in 1980, and it worked, but it worked a little too well. By the time China ended the policy in 2015, they had a serious problem: an aging population, a shrinking workforce, and not enough young people to support the elderly. So then they switched to a two-child policy, basically saying, okay, you can have 2 kids instead of 1. And that didn't help, so they scrapped all limits in 2021, saying have as many kids as you want. But here's the thing. thing. After decades of telling people to have fewer kids, you can't just flip a switch and expect a baby boom. The cost of living is high, education is expensive, and a lot of people just don't want big families anymore. Now China is basically begging people to have babies, offering cash bonuses, tax breaks, and housing perks, even hosting matchmaking events. But birth rates are still dropping, and it's starting to look like a real crisis for the country's future. I'll explain why this is a crisis in just a minute, but first let's head to Japan. I saw this school in Japan and it was totally abandoned. Leaves and vegetation were growing over the building. No one needs this school anymore. There are too few kids. See, across the country in Japan, schools are being turned into senior centers as the country sells more adult diapers than baby diapers. Now, this isn't the plot of a dystopian film, it's the very real future that many developed nations are actually heading toward. And it's driven by one undeniable fact: birth rates are plummeting. Now, you probably think, okay, maybe smaller populations are okay, or even a good thing.
First, we've got population. We could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
And reduce population.
But economists are in full-on panic mode about this, and governments are trying to fix this crisis, but hardly anything is working. It's not just Japan and China. The trend is most pronounced in developed nations. Countries like South Korea, Japan, Italy, Germany, and the United States even are experiencing record low fertility rates. According to the United Nations, nearly 2/3 of the world's population lives in countries with fertility rates below the replacement rate level of 2.1 children per woman. Now, that's the rate needed to keep a population stable without immigration. Meaning, if the average woman doesn't have 2.1 children and you're not allowing immigrants in, your population is going to decline. Demographers have been warning about this trend for years, but the decline is only accelerating faster than even most people predicted. In 1960, the global average fertility rate was 5. Today, it's around 2.4, and it's still falling. Okay, let's head back to Japan for a minute, because Japan has been in this boat for a while. Their birth rate has been stuck around 1.3, and now over 28% of the population is over the age of 65. Entire towns are turning into ghost towns with abandoned homes and empty streets. They've tried work reforms to help people have more of a life outside the office, because right now people don't want to have babies because they think that they're just gonna have to work their whole life. They've tried robots to fill workforce gaps, yes, actual robots caring for the elderly, and immigration policies. Now, this is a big deal for Japan, which has been historically very strict about this, but still it's an uphill battle. Once a country starts shrinking, it's really hard to hit reverse.
So I have talked about this twice already. I don't know if you guys even know about this. People have said that they debunked this article, but they haven't. More people are talking about it. So China is in the final stages of producing a humanoid pregnant robot. And it's set to be released next year. It's at $14,000. And the way the CEO talked about it kind of freaked me out a little bit, especially how we are like going head first into AI so fast in the last like 3 years. I feel like we've like just dove into AI, and now AI is taking over everything, it feels like. So he said, not everybody wants to be married, but they want a wife. Not everybody wants to be pregnant, but wants a kid. So this wife pregnancy robot will do both. Will be a wife and will have the baby. So I have so many questions, but one question that really popped into my head that I think is so unfair and so scary at the same time. So as we know, AI has been evolving in the past 2 years, it feels like drastically, that when you're going to shut them down, this is every AI. It's not just ChatGPT. It's Grok, it's ChatGPT, it's AI, everything. When you're going to delete them, they try to do a code elsewhere to stay alive. I think one AI even went through emails and blackmailed one of them because they were cheating. So obviously we know that they want to stay alive. So I'm assuming that this robot needs to have AI to maintain a human life, because they're even going to have an umbilical cord. Like, they're going to make the baby from scratch up to you can take it out. So my thing is, if this is AI, what if they start thinking that this is their real baby? Like, what if they really think they're a mom? Like, they grow a consciousness in that time and they actually think it's their baby, and then we take it away. So after they have the baby, do we leave them as a nanny? Do they raise the baby? Do they get kicked out? Because if they get kicked out, that's going to be traumatic for this robot. Like, you're taking away a baby. Like, it thinks it's his baby at this point, right? Or if you keep it as a nanny, that's weird too, because like it had your baby and now it's taking care of it and raising it. Like, this is weird. Another worry I have is who's gonna get a hold of this? Who is gonna get a hold of this and create factories of babies? They're saying that this was influenced due to declining birth rates, and in China it is illegal to have surrogates or have like a surrogate pregnancy over there. So after the CEO said that, I'm like, they're taking away all of our jobs. As like women, they're taking away all of our jobs. So nurses are getting away our jobs, teachers are taking away the jobs, factories, like, and now to have babies. So they're literally taking away all of our jobs, and the only job we really had left was giving birth, and they took that away from us as well. This is my crazy thinking. So if you have any comments about this, or you have heard about this, comment and tell me what you think about this, if this is a good idea or not. We all see how these movies end, and they always end with us either crumbling as a society or having to start over, which would be kind of cool, or we all die. So I'll just stay in the know.
Wow.